What's up guys, and welcome back to another LCR performance video here. So this one we're going to be going over this 1966 Toyota LandCruiser that we put together about a year ago, and the customer's been driving it and enjoying it for the last year here. So I'll take you over exactly kind of what we did on this truck and what it is. So from the outside you can kind of see I'm not a big LandCruiser guy, but the owner, he loves his LandCruisers, and he kind of spec'd out the whole body and everything. And he started this project almost 20 years ago, and it was just a pile of parts until about a year ago. So this is a 1966 Toyota LandCruiser. It's an FJ45, so what that means is it's a pickup version with the half cab that comes off like a convertible top. And then this one is a little bit special. It doesn't have the typical LandCruiser hood. It's got the 45 LV hood, which is a pretty, I guess, rare option, and that's something that he definitely wanted to put on this truck. So body-wise, this truck is, like I said, a 6645, but it is Aqualu's all aluminum tubs. So that's the fenders, the cab tub, and the firewall section, the window frame, and it's got their fiberglass top, and the bed is also their aluminum bed that they build for the 65-66 LandCruisers. Everything else on the truck is steel. Those are real doors that have not been rust repaired on this truck. The fender aprons are real steel. The grill shell and the grill is all steel. Nothing's been repaired. It's all rust-free metal. So he actually found some good bones to get going on this truck. And then in the front here we got just the standard, what you do on a LandCruiser, just the ARB front bumper. We bedlinered it, and then it's got a nice worn vintage style M2000 winch or M8000 winch, I don't know. He spec'd this stuff out, and yeah, so this truck is not too special. I mean, it's very cool and very unique for where we live. Like Winnipeg here, you'll be hard pressed to see something especially done like this. You'll see maybe a rusty vehicle or two, but nothing done to this extent. This is a pretty unique build in that sense. But yeah, I'll take you under the hood here and show you. This is not a stock LandCruiser engine. So this has actually got a funny story to it too, but this thing is just a standard 350, a marine block and heads, and that's for one reason, and that's because this came out of a hovercraft from his business that they blew up, and then they refixed this. They fixed this thing, rebuilt it, and then he put it in this truck just as a whatever, you know. I want a V8. I want V8 sounds. I want V8 power. So this thing in here, it drives very good, especially for it having a carburetor. It doesn't get the greatest mileage, but you know, besides the point, this is obviously not the mileage mobile. It's got a 1-to-1 fourth gear in the transmission. So this thing is actually running as well the Toyota factory for the LandCruiser transmission and transfer case assembly. So it's just mated to the small block with an adapter from Advanced Adapters. On the rest under this hood, I mean, we're running just a whatever generic drop-in aluminum radiator, and then dual 12-inch spall fans, just a standard, I think, March Performance drive. And then this thing's got vintage air inside, and the reason that this thing was at our shop this last week was he was wanting to add a few more things to it. So over here we ended up putting in, and we will be putting in later as well, we put in this ARB air compressor, onboard air. So in the future here, he's going to actually, this truck's going to come back and we're going to install air lockers to go with this. We were just putting the air compressor in for now, but that's it. So yeah, this thing, when it came to the shop, was basically just a pile of parts. The engine was in the frame, and then the body was all just kind of strapped and sitting on the chassis. So we did all the body fitment, and the problem was I got the truck painted. So it was fun assembling painted panels, but anyways, it all lines up super good. And the best thing the guy ever told me when he brought it, or when I went to take a look at the truck, he said, "This is not a show truck. I want to drive this thing." And that's my favorite words from any owner, because that means that like fitment stuff doesn't have to be perfect. We don't want to spend like a bunch of time on just the dumbest things to make them perfect, and there's a little more room for, you know, to make it look like a factory LandCruiser. Factory LandCruisers, man, if you ever seen one, they are nothing to write home about on fitment. But anyways, that's besides the point. This truck got all custom wiring in the shop here. All the stainless plumbing for the brakes is done in-house. What else do we do on this truck? Yeah, I don't know, that's kind of it under here. We installed obviously the AC system, and we'll go more over that when we go inside the truck. But yeah, so let's go inside now. Okay, now coming to the interior of the vehicle. This thing, it's very basic, and what he wanted is, he kind of showed me some pictures of the way that Jonathan Ward builds them in California. That's Icon 4x4. That was his big inspiration for this truck. Obviously, Icon 4x4 starting at $250,000, I think, US dollars. It's an expensive build. They're definitely, the quality's there, but you know, sometimes people can't afford that. Anyways, it's not a big deal. So on the inside of this vehicle, we got basically a pretty basic dash. He wanted to incorporate the same sparkle paint, or whatever you call this, metallic, as what was on here and on the gauge surround from factory. So we tried to make this inside this truck look like nice and sanitary, nice and LandCruiser, industrial, you know, whatever. Made it look like a LandCruiser. That's why we got like bed liner on the inside of the cab, bed liner down here. He wanted to use this truck, so he didn't want something show truck where you're gonna get in, scratch the crap out of it. The bed liner, and you can totally see in here. Again, I don't think it's been cleaned since it left my shop the first time, which is totally fine, because you know that means this truck gets used. This truck has now 72 or 7,300 kilometers on it in 1 year, so that's pretty good. He drives it in the winter too, and yeah, he just enjoys it in the snow and whatnot. But anyways, going back to the interior here, yeah, this is just whatever stock LandCruiser knobs and handles and whatnot. Low car parking brake. This is the reproduction vinyl covers and foams for these LandCruiser buckets. We're gonna try and use another seat, but he is pretty big, and they were not going to fit in here, especially not being adjustable. It was going to be a complete pain in the butt. There was too much lean back. The cab's not big enough. Anyways, we went and used the LandCruiser, and I think they honestly turned out better than the seats that we had planned before. But yeah, so here the owner had spec'd this box out for it. This is a Tuffy security box. It's, I think, the 6-inch wide model. It ended up fitting beautifully in the cab here, in between the seats. Gives you some cup holders, and it gives us room for our switches here for the compressor, and then later when we add the air lockers as well. So this is gonna be nice, looks purpose built for that. And then inside, I guess one of the last things is like the only thing I'm not a big fan of, and that's only because he bought the parts like years ago before Vintage Air came out with their Gen 4 electric unit, electric everything. This is their Gen 2 FJ specific kit, and the only thing that I don't like about that is the fact that we got the knobs here as well as knobs on like pull cords here. Is not the biggest fan of it, but it's the pieces we had to work with, so we made do with that. But anyways, kind of just going on everything else. This is our seatbelt mount bar. Owner wanted to have a seatbelts in this truck, even though it's a 66 and they're not required in Manitoba. He wanted them just for safety. He takes his kids for rides and stuff, and you know, you gotta keep the kids safe, even in this nice old vehicle that rides great. Anyways, yeah, so we built this. This is all our mandrel tube bending, and then weld-in bungs for everything, so the seatbelts look factory. They look like they're supposed to be there. And the nice part about the way that this was done is the angles and everything on here. When you have the half cab unbolts up here and unbolts here. So when you have the half cab off, everything looks as one with the roll cage that's in the bed. So all the angles are the same. The spots where the bends are, everything is like nice, and it ties together really good. And that's something I think that we did very well in the shop. And then the last thing in here, one of the last things, I mean, headliner here, a couple odds and ends for interior parts and pieces. We use obviously our buddy Kerry at So Fine Interiors. He does an excellent job for us, so we'll plug him there. If you ever want some nice interior work, go check him out. He does some great show quality work as well as some other stuff. So, last thing on the list, this is probably one of my crowning jewels inside this vehicle, and the best part is I didn't even do it, is these door panels. So I'm going to close the door here and talk through the window, but it's probably too dark anyways. But this door panel here, this is an aluminum door panel. So the reason that we did aluminum door panel is, if you know anything about the factory LandCruiser door panels, they're a vinyl covered cardboard almost. They fit like trash, they look like trash, and then they fall apart right away, obviously because they're cardboard. So this is made out of whatever 60 thou 5052 aluminum or 3003, I can't remember. And then I have my buddy at Bodyline Restorations. His name is Brandon Schmidtke. He does wicked bead roll work in the city. Actually, he's not even in the city. He's in the country here, right around Winnipeg. Anyways, I dropped these off with the pattern I wanted, and he absolutely nailed these things. And then we got them covered in black Sandtex paint. And my favorite part about it is everybody that sees the interior of this truck goes right away to feel the door panel to see if it's real vinyl or not. And that just makes my day, because like they look stellar. The owner couldn't be more happy with it, and the way the bolts and everything line up, it just ties the whole truck together with all the stainless hardware everywhere. I just think it turned out super good. So yeah, we'll go to the back of the vehicle and follow me, and then we'll finish off the rest of the truck here. Alright, so now coming to the back of the vehicle, like I wanted to say earlier, or I had said, is this is an aluminum bed complete. This comes from Akalu Industries out in BC in Canada. They do a bunch of these Toyota LandCruiser bodies. They build like whatever one you want, I think. And then they do like Land Rovers and stuff too. But they're great to deal with, great product. It couldn't be happier with how this whole body and everything honestly fit together. But yeah, so like I had said before as well, like this project's been going on for about 20 years, give or take, whatever. And he worked on it a bit, his shop worked on it a bit, and then another shop was working on it before it actually came to me. And that's one of the things that I really want to give them credit for, is the shop that was working on it before me built this roll cage in the back here, or this roll bar. And in my opinion, this really makes the back end of this truck like look really good and look really unique. So like, they did a wonderful job on this. I cannot take credit for that. Yeah, so the back end of this vehicle, it looks different than any other 45 that you'd see, in that like usually they just do a standard bar and then like a couple down bars, so it looks pretty boring. But this turned out super good. It's got this spare tire carrier, and then he's got his high lift jack. And yeah, so the one thing that we did do, or a couple things that we did do on the back end of this vehicle, is this bumper here. This is a 3/16 steel bumper. We custom designed it just for this vehicle because he didn't want a swing out, spare tire or gas tank or whatever holder on the bumper. He wanted just a regular bumper. So this was custom designed in-house, and you LandCruiser guys that know a thing or two about these 65, 66 trucks, you'll recognize kind of where these taillights were modeled off of. It was actually modeled off of the factory style little bumperettes, or whatever you want to call it, that held taillights in this same region and then same pattern. So we just wanted to tie a little bit of FJ45 66 into this vehicle, and I think it turned out really good. Yeah, so it's just covered in bed liner. We want to keep, the theme, bed liner and paint. It just looks really good, and it's durable. So easy to clean, even though it picks up all the sand. And this guy lives on a dirt road, so that's always great. But yeah, in the back, I mean, we integrated a receiver hitch into the bumper as well for any trailers or whatnot that he wanted to haul. And then we got a 7-pin wiring harness to tie it all together. He could kind of tow whatever he wants with this vehicle. So another thing besides the air compressor that this truck was in the shop for was the fuel tank. So this truck when we put it together, he was adamant that we use his steel tank. It was an old steel tank, and it had been modified a little bit to fit under here, because with the 45 and with where the filler and everything is on this truck, we took it from underneath the cab to in the back here. You can't buy a tank that has reasonable size for it. So the tank that we ended up using, I'm not even sure what it was, had a few leaks in it and whatnot, and it was rusty and plugging up filters and stuff. So we ended up building a around 110 liter tank for this thing. It's built out of 14 gauge steel, and then we powder coated it texture black to kind of hide it under there and just make it look good. So we built it as big as we could go without hanging too low and becoming an obstruction if he ever wheels this thing hard. And I wouldn't put it past him to wheel it hard, because he loves driving this truck, and it's a beautiful truck. Even for a solid axle, leaf sprung truck, this thing drives honestly really good for what it is. It's all on just not on lift blocks, lift shackles, and I think it's the factory springs even. We wanted to keep it lower, didn't want this overly jacked up truck. It was, this style is exactly what he was looking for with this thing. So I think it's got 33-inch tires, and it's on KMC wheels. I'm not sure. He picked these things up years ago, and anybody knows wheels and tires these days, you got a pretty good deal on these things years ago. So the last thing I want to go over on this truck is the exhaust. We ended up doing this thing complete header back in-house. It's a 304 stainless exhaust, custom built just for this truck. It'll be very one-off, because I don't think I'll do it this way again. But it wise off of both headers. It's got block hugger headers, and wise under the truck comes into a Borla XR1 muffler, which makes this V8 sound like really, really, really nice. And then a little bit of a style that he really wanted on this truck. He came to me and said, "Can you make the tip look like a G-Wagon?" G-Wagon usually has it like right here in front of the tire with the two tips. They said, yeah, of course we can do that, because we want to just add a few custom touches, but overall keep it the same like factory look. And I think it turned out really good. So yeah, this is custom built tip for the truck. And then that kind of wraps it up on the outside. I mean, we're missing some parts on our rear wheels, and unfortunately that's because his kid decided to use it as a step, and they're not really made as a step. So we built hubcaps that cover that ugly orange center, and they actually have the old Toyota logo in them, and then they look like the front locking hubs, so they got the nice design and everything. The problem too is they collect a lot of dirt because they're just 3D printed. But yeah, no, that's kind of it on the outside of this vehicle. Yeah, so once again, I want to thank you guys very much for tuning in and watching our channel. Love going over stuff that we built, and stuff that we put our time and our heart into. So I just want to say thank you. If you guys have any questions, comments, or whatnot, put them in the comments below. Drop us a like if you did like the content in this video, and then it'd be great if you guys subscribe to the channel. We love making more of these videos, and the viewers are what make it happen. So once again, I want to say thank you, and I think now we're gonna go and put some driving clips in here. We're gonna go drive this thing. Okay. Can't open the door. All right. So, really should have clued in on this one, but we're having some radio frequency interference with the drone, and if you pan up and look around, you'll know why. Literally power lines on both sides. And I don't think I got any of those clips, so we'll see if they work at all.